Hello, Playfic Warriors, and welcome to another episode of Climate for Fun, the podcast that turns climate change into a laughing matter. Here's Antonio Salituro, climate scientist, writer, and comedian. I'm thrilled to have Atul Kumar with me today. Atul is an environmental presenter, podcaster, writer, philosopher, cryonicist, campaigner, actor, puppeteer, poet, and voiceover artist. Wow, no idea how we can squeeze in so many things together. Anyway, welcome, Atul, and thanks for joining me.
Hi, Antonio. Hi, listeners. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot. Thanks to you for joining me. Ready to laugh at climate change?
Yeah, sure. Let's give it a go.
Cool. Let's crack on then. Right. Okay. So you are the founder of the Environmental Thinking Institute. Quoting for your website, you provide discussion session on intentionally unusual concept relating to environmental solution. Now, when Googling unusual concept relating to environmental solution, I got some crazy eco ideas like sprinkling powder in the sky to reflect solar light. Is this kind of topic you'd cover or?
Well, it is sort of indirectly, actually. So with the Environmental Thinking Institute, what I say is that it's more concept-led than content-led. So what I mean by that is when we talk about geoengineering solutions like sprinkling powder in the sky to reflect more sunlight back out into space to control climate change, I'm less interested in kind of the detail of which way we can do that. I'm more interested in the concept of, will humans get that kind of thing right?
Yeah.
And that's the concept that I'm interested in. So in a couple of forthcoming sessions of the Environmental Thinking Institute, we've got one session called Reframing Music, Film, TV and Art. And the reason that's relevant is there's actually a Netflix TV show called Snowpiercer, where that exact idea that you just mentioned is the basis of the TV series. And so in that TV series, and this is the type of thing that we'll talk about in the Environmental Thinking Institute, how TV can be reframed to talk about climate change.
Yeah.
In that TV show, what happens is they've left climate change, this is a fictional scenario, they've left climate change way, way too late. They're panicking. They put a load of powder up in the sky. But what happens is that they reflect too much sunlight back out into space, causes a massive ice age on the whole planet, and there's about 200 people left on the planet, and they're going around the planet on this train to use the kinetic energy from the movement of the train to keep powering the train. And, it's a ridiculous scenario. But the concept is actually quite important, that I don't think we'll get these geoengineering solutions right. So if we leave it too late, then we're going to muck it up. And that's the concept that I'm interested in.
Cool. No, that definitely geoengineering is quite a delicate matter, to be honest. We haven't got it right yet, I think. It's a bit, you might have some side effects, as you mentioned, but definitely we need more TV series and films on how to handle climate change. So, your vision is based on advanced environmental thinking. Is this down to thinking on moving to Mars in advance? No, seriously, could you shed some renewable light on this concept?
Renewable light, very good, Antonio. So basically, what I mean by advanced environmental thinking is that I think we're now way past the point in history where we need to debate whether humans are causing climate change.
Yeah.
So it's not interesting, it's not helpful to me debate that. I was studying this in 1999 on my geography degree, and it came down on the side of, yes, humans are indeed causing climate change. So it's not even relevant to this millennium to have that discussion. And yet people are still trying to have that debate. So debate's over. So that's what I mean by advanced environmental thinking. Let's think about the place of geoengineering solutions, or let's think about the place of comedy in the environment, or let's think about some other interesting concepts which are advanced, because we don't want to keep talking about the basics every time we have a conversation about climate change.
I agree. Unfortunately, there are some people who tend to reset the conversation on purpose, I think. But, fossil fuels companies and the likes. But it's another story. So on Wednesday, 27th September, this September, you'll be hosting an online free event called Comedy and the Environment. I'm always keen to hear from environmental comedians, Yet I'm even more curious to meet the head of the Ugly Animal Preservation Society. Yes, because, anybody would melt when seeing a picture of a cute polar bear on a little ice cube, but you never see a blobfish on the Instagram profile of a preservation page, do you? So anyway, Atul, please tell us who should join this event and why.
Yeah, so what you're referring to there is one of the lineup comedians on the Environmental Thinking Institute event on the 27th of September. His name's Simon Watt. and he's the head of the Ugly Animal Preservation Society.
Amazing.
Yeah, and they're kind of a mascot, if you like. One of the key animals that they talk about as an example is the blobfish, and of course the which has as much rights to live on this planet as the cute, cuddly panda bears and things like that. And in fact, for ecosystems, it's functionally important to care about all species in an ecosystem. So yeah, the event on the 27th of September, we've got 4 comedians on the lineup, and basically we'll be hearing some of their content, some of their jokes about climate and the environment. But also, it's not just a stand-up comedy event. It's also a reflection and a discussion on the place of comedy and the environment. Because what I'm doing here is I'm raising the question of what is the place of comedy in the environment? When is it helpful to make jokes about these things? When is it not helpful to make jokes about these things? So in terms of who should attend, well, anyone interested in comedy in general, anyone interested in the environment in general. It's a kind of a mashup of 2 popular topics at the moment, so I'm hoping to have a lot of interest in that. And in fact, I'm encouraging people to kind of make a social event of it. So to register, encourage friends to register, dress up in something amusing or bring an amusing prop, and tune in on the day. And yeah, in terms of the questions, I can give you a sort of advance of knowledge in advance of what the breakout room discussions will be about. One of the questions is, and I'm interested, Antonio, if you've got any answers to these questions. Okay? So, what is the potential for comedy and comedians to raise awareness of climate and environmental solutions? And can comedy help to depoliticize the environmental solutions? So, not easy questions, Antonio, but if you've got any answers, then...
I really need to prepare, but I can tell you that that's what is part of what I'm trying to do with this podcast, really, and in my job in general. It's just like lightening, just make it a bit more lighter for people to handle the discussion on climate change. I think it helps to engage them into action, because that's the final purpose of my job, really. But I'll make sure to prepare some answers, for this question, and because I'm definitely gonna take part in this event, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think easy question. I don't necessarily have the answer, but it's great to discuss these things.
Yeah, obviously it's a brainstorming always, isn't it?
Yeah,
cool. So okay, let's switch a little bit the topic, but because you also wrote a book called Alien Places, an Imagined World Tour with an Alien Visitor. So did you guys fly around on a bike? I mean, and most of all, did your ET friend leave a good review for Earth on TripAdvisor? Jokes aside, could you please tell us a bit more about this otherworldly travel adventure?
Yeah, so this idea actually came about originally in 1998 when I was set a geography degree essay asking the question, if an alien visitor comes to visit planet Earth, which 3 places would you show it and why, to give it a sense of the key issues facing human society? And I just thought, what a great question. And out of all the other university essays that I wrote, that was the one that kind of stuck with me over the years. So I made a podcast where I asked my guests which 3 places they would show an alien visitor. And after a couple of years of doing the podcast, I realised that I'd never really been talking about where I would show the alien for them. So the book's for where I would show the alien, and the podcast is for where my guests would show their alien.
Yes.
And yeah, it's basically the sort of technical term for it is creative non-fiction. So it's non-fiction, factual information and concepts wrapped up in a creative fictional wrapper, basically.
Yeah, that's
and so spoiler alert, I didn't really have an alien visitor, so that business. The other information is quite real.
Are you sure? Are you sure it's made up? You haven't met an alien for sure. We can't really this, I guess, but
well, exactly. And in fact, you know what? That's actually relevant to why I created the Environmental Thinking Institute, called the Environmental Thinking Institute, and not the Alien Thinking Institute.
Yeah.
During the course of writing the book and doing the podcast, I often got questions, people asking me, "Oh, Atul, so do you believe that there really are aliens? What can you see?" And it's like, I'm not quite that crazy, so I'm not quite that crazy. So I think it's a bit of the alien thing's a little bit of a distraction. It's fun.
Yeah, true.
But I'm not. I had too many questions going down the route of aliens and what happens. I'm not an expert on Area 52. I've got some training room. So it's basically just a way of talking about, introducing and raising interesting topics relating to the environment from an alien perspective, because I do genuinely think that one of the key solutions to solving the climate and environmental crisis that we're in is to not think like a human anymore. I think that's really important. I think we actually can't do it with human thinking. We need either alien thinking or AI thinking, or something different, because the evidence is that we have not solved the climate crisis with current human thinking. And so it's a genuine solution. So I think it's very, very helpful, genuinely, to at every point relating to anything to do with the environment, ask what would an alien do? Specifically, an alien that wants to stick around, an alien that wants to survive, an alien that wants its species to continue. What would that alien do in this scenario? And I think that's kind of that philosophical kind of thought method, which I think will get us out of the crisis that we're in.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Definitely, you had a very original and good idea of it, really. But coming back to what we were telling before, so you mentioned in particular, say, okay, we can save the planet only if we think like an alien, or in human words, think long term. So did you mean using cryoconservation to freeze ourselves for 1 million years and offer the planet to fix itself, or can you explain a bit better this concept?
Yeah, so in the book, the alien is actually 1 billion years old. So
I see.
and so it's another way of sort of saying, well, of course, the alien would be thinking long term relative to humans, because the alien's lifespan is 1 billion, and actually the alien is quite young.
Yeah.
Its parents are trillions and trillions of years old. It's basically, to give a bit of a spoiler of the book, it turns out that the alien on a conservation holiday, one of the conservation volunteering holidays,
All right.
and it's volunteers to come to Earth to help to save humanity, just like we might do a conservation holiday to Africa and help to save the alien has come to Earth to help to save humans.
That's right.
So itself as a conservation volunteer, and it's quite a young one as well, relative to its parents and the normal lifespan. I think basically what I'm saying with talking about the previous Environmental Thinking Institute session on longevity, crisis, and the environment, the basic point of that is we are in a phase of short-term thinking in human history. Now, where does this short-term thinking come from? It comes from the fact that most humans only live to about 90 years. And it's pretty much as simple as that. So if we imagined a scenario where humans would live to 500 years or 5,000 years, or maybe 5 billion years or 5 trillion years, then we would really start to think about proper sustainability, not just the next political cycle of 5 years or 10 years.
Yeah, actually, you made me think about a book I'm reading about from Jose Saramago, Death of Intervals, where basically death stops at some point. He kind of, reminds me that, because he makes you switch perspective from short term to long term, because you never die, so you need to really figure it out. But yeah, it's good. Well, we need to think about future generation anyway. So in that sense, I think we should. That's where our long term thing should come from.
Well, and actually, the reason I talk about longevity and finance in that sense is that I think we humans have tried this narrative of, look after the climate for the next generation. But unfortunately, the evidence is that narrative doesn't work. So instead, it's not just about our kids, but it's about us personally. So, for example, Greta Thunberg was born in the year 2003. Now, it's very realistic that she'll still be alive in the year 2100. She's only 97 in the year 2100. That's why she's got a personal vested interest in making sure that the climate doesn't get out of control. Now, that's not about Greta's kids. It's about Greta personally. And that's why the youth movement now has come on board, because it's shifted now from, it's no longer about our kids and our grandkids. It's about the people alive now.
Yeah,
now,
sure.
For anyone that wants to have a long life, I want to be alive in the 2100 as well.
Yeah.
And so therefore I care personally.
True. I agree. Cool. So, well, speaking of aliens, so you can't get away without a question on an alien. So you had the honor of interviewing David Attenborough. Yeah? Did you find out if he's an alien too? I mean, with that extraordinary brain, he must be, right? I mean, anyway, what's your top takeaway from your chat with him?
Well, I didn't ask him directly if he's alien. Yeah, so didn't really go in that direction. It was actually for charities, on behalf of a charity called Conservation Volunteers, and they were having their 50th anniversary. They're making a 50th anniversary film, and he's one of their vice presidents. And so the charity wants to have an interview with Sir David Attenborough as part of their 50th anniversary film. And in terms of the takeaways from that, I mean, the first one is that he was very professional. So he turned up on time, and he'd been reminding himself about the charity, and he'd had his answers prepared in terms of answers to the questions that I was asking him.
Yeah.
And then the second takeaway was actually about about that professionalism, but seeing how sort of calm and relaxed he was, and the fact that he had the confidence to do it all in one take. So the whole 10-minute interview we did it actually in one take, which is quite rare when you're filming videos like that.
Yeah.
And I got about halfway through the questions and I realized that, oh, he hasn't fluffed his lines. I haven't fluffed my lines yet. Maybe we can do this whole thing in one take. And it was that kind of, for me, that was working with such a professional like that I felt that he kind of helped to raise my game. Because I think before then, subconsciously, I'd often thought when I'm doing interviews and videos and things like that, you know, you've got to agonize over the words and you're going to make a lot of mistakes here and there. It doesn't have to be like that. And it was great to see that this was a guy that had that expectation coming in that we can maybe get it in one take, you know, and that's normal. So that's another really nice thing about working with him. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bit jealous, to be honest, because, you know, I wish I could interview him as well. But yeah, I consider him as a bit of an alien myself. So, okay, so let's go to the next step of the show. So tell me one thing about climate change that makes you laugh, if you can think of anything.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think the first thing to say is that it's not actually climate change itself that makes me laugh, and it's not the process or the impacts of climate change that I think are funny at all. In fact, we're talking about things like, you know, for the UK, we're talking about malaria coming into the UK. We're talking about Zika virus coming into the UK because mosquitoes now find a more political habitat. And there's nothing funny about Zika virus. That's about having babies born with small heads and disabilities. So nothing funny about climate change itself. But what I do find funny is the human interaction with the physics of climate change, and that we can somehow disagree with physics. In the book, for example, the alien and I go to Los Angeles and we go to the top of the skyscraper.
Yeah.
And we notice a base jumper running along the top of the skyscraper and then jumping off. And then we're both kind of, me and the alien, kind of peering over the top of the skyscraper, watching the base jumper fall plummet to the ground very rapidly. And then what the base jumper does is the base jumper pulls a parachute cord and the parachute comes out. Yeah. One big parachute comes out suddenly and then he's fine. And the analogy that we talk about, the alien and I, at that moment is when humans are talking about climate change, they're talking about all these small little cocktail umbrellas that will maybe help us land safely on the ground. But actually what we need is sudden action. We need big, sudden change, not lots of little cocktail umbrellas. Energy, what I mean by that is the analogy is energy-saving light bulbs, slight and more efficient fridges, that kind of thing. Yes, they're all good, but we also need something big and sudden and massive, like one big parachute, and that is something like a sudden ban on the use of fossil fuels.
Yeah.
And what makes me laugh is that humans just disagree with that. A lot of humans just disagree. They're just being Atul, no. And what they're not doing is they're not looking at the graphs and seeing how much of our carbon budget that we already used up, how close we are to a runaway greenhouse effect, like we have on Venus, which is now 400 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
And so it's the absurdity of human reactions to climate change that makes me laugh, because it's just hilarious, really.
Yeah, you made me think about one answer someone gave it to me about, you know, what you think about what's happening in climate change. You know, he told me, oh, you know, people don't want to go back. But I thought, go back to what? I mean, seriously? I mean, he didn't realize we were going forward, but towards something very bad. Why do you don't want to go back, you know, and a boy smashing on a wall? I mean, that's fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the alien and I talk about, that you know, humans are actually best functioning when they're in 3 dimensions. And if you plummet from a tall building, you know, hit the ground, you're going to end up kind of as a 2-dimensional object, and that doesn't really work with. You need to be working. You don't want to be pavementally distributed, as we say. You want to be operating in 3 dimensions, and if you just plummet and don't put a big parachute cord, that's how you're going to end up. So there's maybe, I mean, I know that's not hilarious, but it's maybe slightly amusing ways of talking about the actual reality being funny.
Yeah, true. Anyway, so tell me one fun thing people can do to fight climate change, other than reading your book and taking part in your webinar.
Yeah, well, I mean, one fun thing that I find is some form of volunteering. So there's loads of different options for volunteering, and I quite like to volunteer with the Marine Conservation Society to do beach cleans, because out in a nice place, you're out at the beach and you're cleaning something up as well. So and sometimes you find really interesting things. So the last time I did a beach clean, I found a bow tie that was red with white spots, and it looked like it come off a clown's costume. So sometimes you find these amusing things when you're doing beach cleans as well.
Well, I mean, you can use it in your show. I mean, I could have used it. I mean, I don't mind dressing up as a clown if you're happy with that.
Well, please do on the 27th of September.
Yeah.
You can start in something amusing. So if you've got a clown's bow tie, then by all means, yeah.
I'll try to come up with something there, definitely. Okay, so now, well, have you got a joke about climate change you want to tell us? You know, since you told me that you're trying to become a comedian, maybe you want to try your luck, or I mean, you don't need to, but it would be nice to.
Yeah, so just out of interest, I've signed myself up for a stand-up comedy course. I'm not sure exactly whether I want to do the full circuit and that kind of thing, but I think it'll be really interesting to learn the methods of comedians and how I can bring more comedy into the Environmental Thinking Institute. And just on that point, actually, one of the reasons I've done this session on comedy in the environment is because I think comedians are particularly good at thinking differently.
Yeah.
And in fact, my understanding of one of the ways that stand-up comedians are trained is you take the audience on a conventional thinking path, and then the punchline is you've suddenly gone off in a different direction. That change of direction is what's funny.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested in that. And I want to learn more tactics and techniques like that, which can help me to engage more people, bring more comedy into it, because I'm a long-term environmental campaigner. So if nothing else, I want to enjoy myself when I'm campaigning. And joke comedy is a way of doing that. But yeah, so to answer your question, in terms of jokes, so I actually asked ChatGPT about.
Oh, okay, cool.
I've got one that ChatGPT wrote and one that I wrote. So
Okay.
see which one you prefer.
That's
so
cool.
the one from ChatGPT is, what do you call a polar bear in summer?
Oh, wow. Not a clue.
A puddle bear.
That's a nice one, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay, and the one that I wrote is, why did the chicken cross the road?
Sorry again?
Why did the chicken cross the road?
Not a clue either.
To breathe properly after nearly suffocating from the smoke of raging wildfires on the first side of the road, fires that were effectively specifically voted for by insane, suicidal humans.
Wow, that's more sophisticated but equally interesting. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, you can tell there is a bit more human thinking behind, you know, like a bit more high level. No, that's good. That's good. Okay, thanks for your performance. You're on the right track, I think, on this. Quiz. Time for quiz now. Okay, so you got 3 multiple choice answer. Yeah, you need to guess which one is the correct, but you know, no worries if you don't. Right, you ready for it?
Yeah, ready. Let's go.
Cool. Okay, so first question. In a paper, researcher reported a graph showing that AI emits much less CO2 than humans when creating an image. But how much less? Up to 2,500 times less? Up to 10 times less? Or I don't trust graphs, show me an AI-generated image.
Well, full disclosure for listeners, I did ask Antonio to send me these questions in advance. But my initial thought was B, so I'm going to have to say B.
Okay.
But I did look it up, and I did learn that it's actually A.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate your honesty, and yeah, it's A. I confirm it's A. Well, good job for looking it up anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how they calculate that. I didn't look into the detail of how they calculated that because, I mean, I guess the AI works at the speed of light, so it's going to be many times more efficient than a human. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's the main element, I suppose. The speed. Yeah, true. Anyway, let's go to the second question, which is more interesting. Well, more obvious, I guess, the answer. Well, when asked about his view on climate-driven hurricanes, who said, "I've always rejected the politicization of the weather"? Atul Kumar, after speaking to his alien friend all night long? Atul Kumar, after going through the 10th round of revision received by his book editors? Or Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida?
Well, I have had lots of long all-night conversations with my agent, but I'm going to have to say C, one governor of Florida.
Yeah, correct. Well done. So, finally, last question. What is climate delay? So, A, the delay between seeing a lightning and hearing a thunder during a climate-driven hurricane. Or B, a tactic used by fossil fuel companies to postpone climate action and the transition to renewable energy? Or C, the delay caused by bloody climate protesters blocking the roads?
Well, I'm glad to see the climate protesters have found lots of other ways of doing the process apart from just blocking roads.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lots of other options that they've been using there. But
Yeah,
a tactic used by fossil fuel companies.
Yeah, you're right. In climate protester defense, obviously, is sarcastic. So I'm totally with climate protesters, just to clarify. But yeah, well done. 3 out of 3, even though you looked up the first one. But I gave you that. I gave you that. I gave you that.
I thought that was going to be 2 out of 3. So.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. Right. That's the end of this Climate for Fun episode. Atul, thank you so much for your fun contribution.
Thank you, Antonio. It's great. And thanks very much for doing your podcast. It's a really interesting, fun podcast. So keep going. Great work. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your feedback. And of course, thanks to whoever tuned in today. Next episode will be in a month as usual. In the meantime, remember to fight climate change one laugh at a time. Ciao, and ciao to the aliens as well.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.